Welcome to Mr. Podcast with Claude.
And Justin.
We are back with our Dear Holmes podcast number 2, discussing the November 2022 case letter number 2. A lot of twos here. So if you are all caught up, you would have heard our previous podcast where we discussed the first case letter, the mysterious case of the mystery missing astrolabe. Um, and
And the torn cuff.
and the cuff that is torn. And we got a couple of interesting characters all set up, a couple interesting motives, perhaps.
Yep.
Justin and I didn't really find any clear evidence or clear motive for anybody. So we're very, very eager and excited to get this second case letter to see what clues lies within.
Ooh. I can't wait to find out, but I don't have it yet, so I have no
So
idea.
I just so Justin didn't receive his letter 2 in the mail yet, but I did just send you a scan of the
So
one I
optimistic to say
got.
yet. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it'll happen. It'll happen. Okay, so I just sent you the scan,
Ooh,
Justin, so you
I
should have
got it.
it.
Oh my god, I got it.
And now you see why I was very
Okay.
exclamatory about this case letter because it changes a very interesting thing
All right, I
in the
haven't
first
opened it
case
yet.
letter.
So
Oh,
so
you haven't
here
seen it
here
yet.
comes the big reveal. I'm
Okay.
opening it now.
Yes.
Wait. Oh no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That's why I want to capture this reaction on the podcast because
Oh
I didn't
no.
expect this.
I didn't either. Even though I feel like we almost had this
We sh
theory.
Yeah, we should have expected this.
Ah.
Okay, so you all
Oh
so everybody
no.
listening should be able to see this scan
Shit.
on the podcast post on Patreon.
Bentley Sallow. Bentley Sallow. All right. Wow.
Um, so
Wow.
what we're exclaiming to right now is the fact that this second case letter comes from a different character than the first case letter, which, Rashomon, right? We should have expected that we get other information from different sources. That's classic mystery. But I didn't expect that. So when I opened up the letter here just now, I was really, really floored. And actually, this is really exciting because now we can, we don't have to rely on one person's
Yeah.
testimony.
Yeah.
Now we can cross examine and see what lines up, what doesn't line up.
What's he gonna say about the cuff? That's what I want to
Oh,
know.
he'll say my cuff was never torn. He's like, this cuff is the strongest cuff
There's
ever
one thing I
cuffed.
know in this world.
Exactly. You'll never see me with a torn cuff ever. Okay. Well, neither of us have read this letter yet, so let's dive in into
Okay,
letter number 2.
I'm
Okay.
ready.
So the first case letter, if you'll remember, was from Ewan Finnegan, who is the person who is being fingered for this crime of stealing the astrolabe from Adelard University. And so the case letter number 1 was written from his stationery, basically. And what's cool and different about this is from a different stationery, different letterhead, and it's signed by your obedient servant, Constable Bentley Salo. All right, so this is the constable that we heard from in the first letter, and now the constable's writing to Sherlock Holmes, and of course, we're here as a consulting detective trying to solve the case. All right. One thing I want to mention is the first case letter from Ewan was dated 1 May, thank you,
Ah,
1895.
thank you. Yes.
And this one is dated 3 May, 1895. So 2 days later.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Only 2 days later.
The
Okay.
top of the letterhead says Telegrams, Chester Post Office. The big letterhead title is Cheshire Constabulary, which is a great word. And it's from Chester. Okay, here we go. Dear Mr. Holmes, while under ordinary circumstances I'd be delighted to correspond with the Sherlock Holmes, it disheartens me to see your time wasted by Ewan Funican. He is and always has been a master criminal. I watched closely when my superior, Chief Constable Mayberry, assisted in the downfall of Professor Moriarty those years ago, and it's a certainty that no man could have so closely orbited the professor without assisting in his conspiracy. Funican may have escaped prosecution in that convoluted affair, but in this more earthly crime, where the evidence of his guilt is clear, I will not let him go free. In deference to you, I will answer your questions about the case, but I am confident that in time you will concur with my findings. I first learned of the theft at Adelard College just after 9 in the morning on the 1st of May. I was making my rounds when two professors, McCann Butchart and
Oh
Kin
boy.
Garwood, came running to me. Help, our names are crazy. No. Uh, Gorwood, GorYDD, please, two Ds, if you're serious. Is one of the university's more notable professors, always sporting the latest fashion. So I knew something was wrong from the moment I saw him racing down the corridor, leather hat in hand.
What does that mean?
I just want to stop here and talk about that. There's 20 things wrong already. Okay, here we go. Quote, sorry, he heaved, quote, there's been a robbery, glass everywhere, come along, end quote. And I followed. We ran back towards the atrium where the two showed me that a glass display case meant for one of the university's most valuable artifacts now lay empty with shattered glass all around it. On arriving, I performed a cursory inspection. It appeared to be a clean job. There were no fingerprints, excuse me, finger marks
Finger
or
marks,
remnants,
please.
finger marks or remnants of fabric. All that was left in the case was a small stone, brown, speckled, with verdigris. Whatever the hell that is.
Verdigris.
I can't wait to Google that word.
It seems like maybe it's like gray green or something. It seems Latinish.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Waiting next to the broken case was Elise Northcott. The young
Mmm.
woman who discovered the theft. I surveyed the scene, then interviewed all three of those present, hoping to begin identifying suspects. I started with Northcott, asking if she had heard or seen anything unusual before or after the burglary. She thought for a moment, then answered, no. I had been busy at work in the library since 8. I had just finished sweeping the two northern halls when I came out to clean the display cases. Didn't even step outside before I noticed broken glass across the ground everywhere. Really, everywhere. There was nobody else in the atrium, and at first I couldn't tell what exactly had been broken. Then I saw one of the newer display cases had been shattered. I thought somebody had stumbled, excuse me. I thought somebody had tumbled into the glass
Slight
until I
difference.
noticed until I noticed that that the gold astrolabe had been swished out for a stone. It was then that I ran for help. Professor Gorwood's door was open. I told him what I'd seen. We fetched Professor Bushard down the hall, and they told me to keep watch of the atrium until they were back. End quote. That was all a quote. Mr. Gorwood and Buchard both nodded along to her story, adding that they searched the corridors around the atrium before finding me near the lecture hall. I added Mr. Gorwood if he, excuse me, I asked Mr. Gorwood if he surveyed, damn it. I asked Mr. Gorwood if he'd observed anything of note in the hours before the theft. I gotta slow down. Nothing, really, he told me, except the music in Mac's office. Ooh, that
Mmm.
that was me saying ooh, not the letter saying
Me
ooh.
too. Yeah.
Except the music in Mac's office until Elise came running.
Elsie.
That
Sorry.
I have a little dyslexia. You can figure that out by now. The astrolabe was in its case in the atrium when I got here this morning. I arrived at 6:30 to work on lecture notes. I left my office only once since then to use the toilet around 7. TMI.
Yeah, right, seriously, okay.
Sorry, not in the letter. Okay. I didn't stop to observe the astrolabe when I crossed the atrium, but there was certainly no mess of glass. I remember it feeling quite peaceful. I worked on notes for another couple of hours until Elsie ran in panicked, whimpering, quote, "The atrium, glass, the case, everywhere. Please come," end quote. So I alerted Mac and we both followed her out to the atrium. When we saw what had happened, we told her to stand watch and ran to find you as fast as we could. Butchert recalled a similar series of events. He said, quote, "I didn't hear anything odd either, but I doubt that I would have. I had the phonograph playing just beside me on my desk as I worked. The first thing that drew my attention was Ken shouting, 'Mac, Mac, come quick,' end quote. I followed him out to the corridor and he told me of the theft. When asked the charwoman to s- when we asked the charwoman to stay near the atrium to be sure nobody stepped on the glass, and to keep an eye on anybody who did happen to walk past, and then we rushed to find you." End quote. From what I know of the three witnesses, none strikes me as a theft or thief, if you read it correctly. Corwin is something of a snob, and Butchert is far from has a far from favorable reputation with the barmaids, but both are well compensated by the college. From their dress, I surmise they also have substantial means beyond their wages from Adelard, which would further dissuade them from any impropriety like this. Both are also, from what I've been told, quite brilliant. In academic circles, they're believed to be on their way to greatness. I like my version better. They're believed to be on their way to greatness, is what the letter says. They work in close proximity, so had either of them acted alone, the other would have noticed. They could, of course, have worked together, but there is no evidence in support of this theory, and I can't possibly think of a reason for two men so enamored with their professions to take such a gamble. As for Northcott, she's worked for the college nearly 7 years now without so much as a complaint to her name. It is for this reason she has full access to the grounds at all hours and keys to all the display cases. From my encounters with her, she has always appeared to be honest and hardworking woman. She is the person who reported the crime, and all indications are that she reported it immediately upon discovering the shattered case. If she'd wanted to steal the university's astrolabe, she had the means to do so with much greater discretion. Moreover, I searched Northcott's supply room along with the offices of both professors. Not one of them gave objection to the search, and I found nothing suspicious. Ruling out these three, the question arose of who then stole the astrolabe. I asked each of them whether they'd seen anything unusual. If they've seen, sorry, I asked each of them whether they'd seen any unusual visitors in the days leading up to the theft. Northcott said no, and that she'd seen nobody besides the librarian and myself this morning. Butchard and Gorwood agreed, but I could not see. Sorry, but I could see. That's the opposite. That both men were uneasy. Let me read that again. Butchard and Gorwood agreed, but I could see that both men were uneasy. Gorwood then frowned, whispered to Butchard, and clearly his throat. And cleared his
It's
throat.
clearly his
Guys,
throat.
it's late. I'm tired. My eyes are glazing over. Quote, we did have one unexpected visitor yesterday. End quote. This is when Ewan Funican became a suspect. Mr. Funican was once a friend and colleague to the two professors and was supposed to interview for a position at Adelard on the day of the theft. The day before the theft, he paid a visit to the school, supposedly to speak to his old friends in private, but neither man would admit him into their office, so he waited in the atrium for them to emerge so that he could plead for their help. Butcher told me we'd heard Ewan was not doing well, but I don't know the situation was quite so bad. Or I didn't know the situation was quite so bad. Slight difference. It was during that time. It was during that time. Sorry, it was during that time waiting in the atrium, I surmise, that he hatched his plan to steal the asteroid. Hey guys, just read it yourself, all right? Okay, almost. It's the
You're
longest.
so close. Do you want me to take over?
Okay, at the time, I need to tap out. At the time, I knew nothing of Funikan, but his former colleague's concern over his visit and the fact that he recently spent time in the atrium intrigued me. So I pressed further, quote, lots of people are desperate for work these days, end quote. And Gorward let loose that he'd been holding back. Quote, sure enough, but Ewan has trouble finding work for a very particular reason. Have you heard of a man named Moriarty? End quote. I nearly fell out of my chair, but I composed myself and nodded. Quote, we first met Ewan when he was Professor Moriarty's research assistant. When it turned out that Moriarty was more a criminal than a scholar, Ewan denied knowledge of his crimes. We wanted to believe that he was innocent, but after all the hubbub around Moriarty, we were forced to either keep our distance from Ewan or risk our reputations, end quote. All at once, it made sense how and why the astrolabe could have been stolen so cleanly. Do tell. Once I sent away the two professors and Miss Northcott and sealed off the atrium, I located Funican in his lodging at his lodgings and brought him to the station for questioning. This interview bolstered my theory. Funican told me point blank that he hadn't been able to find work in months, but when I spoke to the owner of the inn where he was staying that evening, he informed me that our man had been doing day work as a chimney sweep. In fact, he was cleaning the inn's chimneys in exchange for board. This revelation explained to me a curiosity which hadn't strayed from my mind since first inspecting the atrium, tracks of an unusually dark, dry material. I had initially figured they were made of soil, not an uncommon sight in the atrium, and observed each of the surrounding flower beds for a match. I found none, but after my conversation with the innkeeper, I realized that I'd been altogether mistaken. It was not soil, but rather soot, which somebody had tracked through the atrium. Peculiar, no? I will also note that I've inquired to see if Funiken might have sold or pawned the astrolabe. The artifact has not been sold or offered to either of the local pawnbrokers or Cheshire's resident jeweler, Theodore Wicks, which they've lied about, excuse me, unless they've lied to me about the fact, in parentheses, I see no reason to doubt them. I plan to pay a visit to Mr. Funican at the Adelaide Arms tomorrow at dawn. If all goes well, I'll have the opportunity to inspect his lodgings, even if only briefly, for any signs of the missing astrolabe. Beyond that, the case is presently at a standstill. Yet I don't mind, excuse me. Yet I don't intend to rest until I've gotten to the bottom of this. It's not every day that a university patrol officer gets to take on a case of this magnitude, and I take great pride in being able to make myself of use. You have my word, Mr. Holmes. We'll catch this swindler. Your obedient servant, Constable Bentley Sallow.
Wow.
Dude, what a long letter. Was it longer than the first one? Or did it just
I
like
don't think so. It was
really
four pages, right? I think that was about
all
the same.
longer? I
I
felt
mean,
like there
it
was
felt longer, but
I felt like there were so many things that stood out to me. I don't even remember what they were. There was first of all, the cuff never came into
nah,
question.
he didn't even talk about it. I was so annoyed. I was like, "Wait, what? How did you not mention the cuff for your cigarette case?"
Dear
Like,
Mr. Holmes, solve the case of the cut cuff. Like he didn't even care about the cuff.
I'll tell you what stood out to me the
Okay, what's that to
most
you?
at first was most of what was in the previous letter was corroborated here. Like
Yes.
the way he characterized who was where, who did
Mhm.
what, who said
Mhm.
what,
It's a very good point. It's a very good point.
most of that seems to line up. The only thing in here where it wasn't mentioned was this thing about being a chimney sweep at the
Mhm.
inn. Like he never mentioned that. And in a way, you think he would mention that because
Yeah,
it
because
seems like
I
it makes
actually
him sympathetic.
I was wondering when they mentioned he was staying somewhere, how he was paying for that.
Yeah.
So he did mention in the first letter to Holmes that he was working there as a chimney sweep and then has seemingly left evidence that he was there. So he's so dirty when he shows up that he leaves a trail of soot in
Yeah.
the atrium. Is that the idea?
That seems to be what they're saying. Yeah. Yeah. But like to me, that's not con
Mhm.
he already said he was there.
Mhm.
So, just because his soot tracks are there doesn't mean he stole the thing,
Yeah.
right? Like that's not conclusive. But
Yeah, they say
then
don't judge a book by its soot, right?
it I always say that.
Yeah, you have that tattoo.
Yeah, so I can remember that I always say that. Yeah.
Yeah, in case you forget to say it, you can read your tattoo.
But I think uh it just makes me wonder slightly similarly to this thing from the last one, like why are they mentioning that?
Mhm.
Is is the soot a clue? Is someone else at the inn? Is
Mhm.
did they find out about it and they're framing him? Like they like went to the inn and grabbed some soot to lay it down. I don't know. Because it's weird that he was so dirty from soot and he's going in for a job interview, you
Yeah.
know, even if it was the day before, and he's still got soot all over himself. Like, why isn't he
That's a
like,
weird one, that's a weird one. He seems like a person who would present himself in the best light
yeah,
for an interview, and he wouldn't show up to a school, even for the tour, sooty.
yeah, sooty.
He might go to the city, but he's not gonna show up sooty.
So he would never be sooty in the city.
Yeah, that's the Sarah Jessica Parker TV show we never got. City of the City. Mr. Big is actually just a chimney. Okay. Um,
Yikes.
so one thing that stood out to me is the charwoman. They suggested that she has a key to all of the cases. So if she
Yeah,
wanted to steal it, she didn't need to break it open.
right, right. But on the other hand,
Yeah.
um,
If she wanted to make it look like she didn't steal it,
yeah,
she would break it open
she
because
wouldn't
everybody
use
knows
the
she got a
key
key. Yeah.
because it's like, why would I steal it? I got a key. Like,
Yeah.
why would I break the thing?
Let's look up the word verdigris.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
A bright bluish green incrustation or patina formed on copper or brass by atmospheric oxidation, consisting of basic copper carbonate. Is that
okay, okay,
so it's
yeah,
actually not a gray thing. It's like an aqua color. It's
okay.
oh okay. It's something you'd see on like the Statue of Liberty
Statue of Liberty.
is that
Yeah.
green color that the Statue of Liberty has is
Okay.
verdigris because it actually used to be copper colored when the French gave it to us.
Oh, it's not really green. I see. It's supposed to be green vinegar. I see.
Mm,
That's the origin. So it's like green made by vinegar.
okay. Okay, so what does it say? It says all that was left in the case was a small stone, brown with speckled verdigris. So that means it's copper. That means the stone has copper in it, right?
Yeah.
That's an interesting
That's
detail.
what it sounds like.
So it's
Yeah.
not just brown and green in general, but it has some copper in it. But if it's rough stone, that means it's a gemstone that's not cut. So it's a
Yeah.
gemstone with brown that has brown and copper pieces. God, I wish I would have kept up with my gemstone major in college. I would maybe know what this is. Is there so if I say Google gemstone copper brown, what
Does
do
does this occur uh does this occur naturally?
does
Uh
that verdigris?
yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's just oxidation on copper.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Just checking. Just checking. Since all the examples seem like they're done artificially, it just made me
Well, I think the
wonder.
Statue of Liberty is an example, right?
Oh, oh,
It's
it didn't
green.
look like
Yeah,
that.
when it was given to us by the French, it was copper. Like,
Okay.
it was the color we think of as copper, and the oxidation has turned it green.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's actually all made of copper.
Okay.
But it looks green because of the verdigris.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay.
So so I wonder, is there a gemstone? So what's a copper gemstone then? See if Google can help me here.
Um
Azurite and malachite are copper-based gemstones. Does that help?
um yeah, I mean they kind of look vaguely like the right color. Okay, what does that but what does that have to do with anything?
I know.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Okay.
Well,
Let's
okay,
see.
we'll put a pin in that. I don't know if figuring out what this gemstone is will really help.
It is still a very weird element though.
Yeah.
And also when he meant where is the place where he mentions this thing? The stone? Uh
It's at the second paragraph on page 1 at the very end.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He does not, unlike the last letter, suggest that the stone was used to break the thing.
Uh-huh.
And he also calls it a
But he also reiterates that there's glass everywhere, at least from what the people say.
huh?
I mean, he's not suggesting that the glass over the astrolabe wasn't broken.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I'm just saying it wasn't broken with the stone.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's not saying that that's what was used to break it explicitly.
Yeah, which was like suggested in the first letter, you know.
Mhm,
It's just interesting to me the this constable character is not it doesn't seem to even be thinking that that's he in fact calls it a small stone,
mhm.
which, you know, could it fit in a cigarette case? I'm just saying. It's
Have you
small. We
seen a cigarette case?
I really
It
want the
it
stone in
fits
the cigarette case.
it fits a cigarette.
It could be a cigarette-sized stone, right? A small stone, right? I mean, how big is a small stone?
If it's that small, can it be a stone? Now I'm looking at what is his definition of a stone.
Stone gotta be big?
I mean, a little bit. A
What's
stone is a hard, non-metallic mineral, of which rock is made, especially as building material, or it's a piece of stone shaped for a purpose. Um, that's not helpful. Let me see. Stone, a concretion of earthly or mineral matter, a piece of rock. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
I don't really think it makes any sense that the stone was in the cigarette case. I just thought it was interesting that there's a detail added here that makes it slightly
Oh,
more
listen.
plausible.
it's this guy's cigarette case. So if he had a stone that he used to break the thing open, would he be talking about it?
Well, it would have to be an elaborate plot, I agree. But I don't know, I
But
mean,
to your point earlier, maybe that's why he didn't say it was used to break the thing open.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, like, maybe but why was it left there? I still don't understand that. Why not just take the thing? It definitely sort of feels like it sort
Hmm.
of feels like it's a message, but then maybe this is just supposed to be a clue to help solve the case. Like, maybe it doesn't really make sense. I'm really not sure.
There's no way you break a case and then leave and put a stone in there instead of the thing you stole without it being a message, because you can break the case with anything. You can break it with a hammer, whatever. You don't need to find something that's so specific that two people have now described it, and then leave it in place of the thing. So it's definitely, I my hunch is that there's a message somehow, and that if you knew what the stone was, that would help with the message,
Mhm.
you know? So it's, I mean, brown be speckled with verdigris. So maybe that just means it's copper, because copper is a brownish color, right? So maybe
Yeah.
all that means is it's copper and some of it's oxidized.
Yeah.
So it's a copper gemstone. Um, and somebody left it there for some reason. That's all I got. Did I solve it?
Presumably the thief left it there.
Yeah.
It would be weird if it was stolen and then someone else left a stone there. Um, I'm just I'm just throwing that out there. But I think it's possible that it wasn't used to break the thing, but it could still be a message even if it wasn't used to break the thing.
I agree. I think the idea was used to break the thing is just a conclusion you make when you see the crime scene,
Yeah.
but I don't think that's has to be true.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it seems notable that it's not mentioned here. I do think there's some clue here with the stone, but I I have we is there like copper in chimneys or something?
Is that what they're sweeping? They're
That's it.
sweeping out all the copper?
Sweeping up the copper. I don't know. Like I'm trying to is there any connection of copper with any of the characters that have been introduced? Like I don't think so, but I mean, maybe it's not connected with the person, but it's about like what it means in context. But it's like, do we really know enough to? All right. Anyway, I don't know what to do with this stone.
Okay, let's come back to that. Let's come back to the stone. I want to keep going in the letter.
Okay.
It was a little hard to read, and that's why I was messing up sometimes, because I was trying to like process what I was reading.
I understand. That's why I didn't want to read it because I can't do that. I would have to read it again without saying
Yeah.
anything.
So one thing I think is interesting is just, Elise Northcott, the charwoman, just talking about how much glass was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
She said she said so the constable asked if she'd heard or seen anything unusual before or after the burglary. She thought for a moment, then answered, "No, I'd been busy at work in the library since 8. I had just finished sweeping the two northern halls when I came out to clean the display cases. First of all, why are they dirty? Next, didn't even step outside before I noticed broken glass across the ground everywhere. Really, everywhere. So that to me is interesting, that there's just so much glass. Why is there so
Yeah.
much glass? And then she says there was nobody else in the atrium, and at first I couldn't tell what exactly had been broken. Really? And she says, then I saw one of the newer display cases had been shattered. So this is the second time we've heard the display cases characterized as new.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that is sticking out to me that they're new cases.
Yeah.
I don't know if new cases are easier to break, harder to break, um, or it's just the stuff they've had before is not valuable enough to steal. Because that's actually a big question, right? Of all things to steal, why that?
Yeah.
Presumably,
Yeah.
there's other things they could have taken that's just as valuable. We haven't gotten confirmation of that, but there's clearly other display cases, some older display cases, things they've had before.
Yeah.
And this is one of the new ones. And actually, that's another point. If it's a new display case and a new thing they're displaying, maybe they recently acquired it. So that might be why the thief wants it back because it was just recently taken
Didn't
from
they say
them.
something about that?
Did they?
Am I wrong? I
What
feel
they say?
like maybe in one of the interviews, I feel like there was something about uh hold on. Okay, blah blah blah. Maybe I'm making it up. Let's see. Okay, yeah, no, yeah, I don't see anything like that. I don't know. I had in my head that there was something about, but maybe I'm just thinking of the newer cases thing,
Okay.
and
I'm
that was implying that, that they just recently put it out there. Or maybe there was something in
trying
the previous
to
letter. I
I'm
don't
trying to look
know.
at the timeline here. So we've got it's 6:30. We've got Mr. Gorwood working on lecture notes. He left his office to use the restroom at 7. Okay. He didn't stop to observe the astrolabe, but he didn't notice a mess of glass. So the astrolabe wasn't, was still there by 7.
Well, so I'll just inject the possibility that that Elsie stole it with the key and then broke the glass later, which seems really unlikely, but I'm just saying he didn't see it, so it's
Dude, I
possible.
actually love that idea that there's two different things happening at once. That one person could have stolen it and the other person sees it's gone and then replaces it with a more clumsy crime.
Mhm.
Because the glass everywhere is a really clumsy crime.
Yeah.
And you probably only, this other thing I wanted to talk about is the music that was being played in Mac's office,
Mhm.
um, which apparently wasn't by Mac, but by his partner, I think, by the other guy, if I remember correctly. But one of them is playing music, which is
Wait,
like,
the music wasn't Mac?
well, let me see if I'm right. He says Mr. Gorwitz said he didn't note if anything. He didn't. Let's see. I asked Mr. Gorwitz if he'd observed anything of note in the hours before the theft. Nothing really, except the music in Mac's office. Oh, he says that's of note, so that's interesting. Until Elsie came running. Okay, so that means that. Sorry, Mac is playing music, but I thought later when Mac is talking,
Mac is butchered, right?
yes, Mac butchered.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had the phonograph playing just beside me.
I just misunderstood when I was reading it. Okay, cool. So it's his music in his office.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes me think that somebody is confident enough to break the glass since there's so much glass,
Mhm.
because the music's playing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Which, could implicate Mac or, like if it was to cover it up.
Mhm.
Like maybe he's in on it. Maybe it's Mac and
I
Elsie. I'm just saying.
I want to dive into this idea that one person stole it for some particular reason. Then a second person sees it stolen. You know, one person steals it using the key, presumably Elsie, and then another person sees it stolen, right? Because he did say, "Hey, I crossed the atrium.
Yeah.
I didn't notice it was missing, but I didn't see any glass," which we don't want to assume that means it was still there.
Yeah.
It just means there was no glass, which means it could have already been stolen.
Yeah.
And then somebody later sees, "Oh shit, this thing has been stolen. I need to now protect that person who I know did it."
Mhm.
Or some other reason why I wanna protect this, and now has this clumsy. So here's a question about this gemstone then. What do are Mac and Gorwood, what do they do? Are they in math or are they in something else?
Oh, I I guess I assumed they were in math. Did it not say that?
I'm looking at the first
Uh,
letter here.
maybe it didn't say that. Yeah, I don't think it's actually saying that. I guess I assumed it from the first letter. Did he
Mhm.
say they were supposed to be
I'm very close to finding out.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I mean they're described as old friends and colleagues. That doesn't necessarily mean, but it would kind of be my assumption.
yeah. So Adelaide's. Oh, he says yeah. Most recently, I secured an interview for a tutor position in Adelaide's College mathematics department, where my two old best friends, McCann Butchard and Ken Gorward, currently enjoy building careers. Now, I guess we can't be sure that means they work in the math department so much as they work at the school.
Yeah, yeah. Wait, why are you concerned about what department they work in?
Well, if they're geologists and they have
Ah, that's where you're trying to go. Okay,
and
okay.
they have access to a rough stone.
Okay. Yeah. I got it. I got it. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, I
right.
don't think it's been mentioned, so if that's true, it's something they're holding back.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that would definitely make it yeah, very suspicious. I mean, playing the music, I don't know. It could just be a coincidence,
It
but
can't be because he called it out as being unusual. So it's not like he's playing music all the time at 7 o'clock in the morning, whenever it
wait,
is.
who said it's unusual?
Dude, he's Gorwood. He says, let's see, I'm on the first page. I'm on the second page. Yes, second page, second paragraph. I asked Mr. Gorwood if he'd observed anything of note in the hours before the theft. Nothing really, except the music in Mac's office. So that was of note. Sorry, not unusual, but
Okay, all right. Yeah,
of
of
note.
note, but not necessarily unusual. Okay. All right, just making sure.
We're the most pedantic detectives inside of this game. But it matters. Okay.
It's like I can understand calling it of note because it was happening and, I would assume it didn't necessarily happen all the
But if it
time.
happened all the time, then it's not of note, right? Why would you note something that happens all the time?
Well, uh, yeah, so, yeah, like, I would assume it doesn't happen every day, it doesn't happen all the time, but that's not necessarily the same thing as
But
being
but the
unusual.
fact that we're reading a mystery story and they call out the music being of note makes me think we should think it's of note.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with your basic point.
Yeah. So I like this idea because this is the kind of thing that like feels like the right answer, which is one person did something and another person did something else.
Mhm.
So like somebody stole it using a normal method, and then somebody's like, "Oh shit, they stole that thing. I told them not to. They did it anyway, or whatever.
Yeah.
Let me cover up for them. I'll make a clumsy crime scene by breaking it. I'll just grab a rock that I have, and I'll break the glass, and I'll leave it in this thing. I don't know why yet. And then I'll have the culprit be the guy who everybody already thinks is a criminal mastermind.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll go get some soot from the inn
Yeah.
to track around the crime scene and
Because
put
because I'm trying to frame that person. So some who so if this is the case, then like they're really, 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 really invested in protecting whoever really did it. To go
yeah.
so far as not only to frame Ewan, but to like do the soot the soot part
Yeah.
is pretty crazy to
It's
throw.
serious commitment. Yeah, they would have to even know he was doing that and then go to
Yeah.
the trouble to go there, get the thing, and plant it.
Well, and
So,
the people who would know he's doing that are his friends who he kept trying to get a job from, right? I could imagine him telling them what he's up to, unless he's got so much pride he would hide the fact he's a chimney sweep. But in general, I could see him saying, "I'm trying to get a job. I'm trying to get back into academics. Right now, I'm barely making it by as a chimney sweep." So I could see him mentioning that to somebody in
mhm.
general. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, it seems notable to me that, those other characters, from the first letter are not mentioned here, you know?
yeah.
The constable who doesn't have to be right, but it seems like he doesn't really consider any suspects
He doesn't know that.
besides Gorwood, Butchart,
Yeah.
Elsie, and
That's a really good
Ewan.
point. That's a really good point. I would say he doesn't know them, but in terms of this being a mystery we're trying to solve, I think that's a really valid point that he's not mentioning them. The other thing I would mention on top of that is why is he writing home?
Yeah, yeah, that is so unclear. Like, I guess he found out that
Yeah.
Ewan had
How would he
written.
know 2 days before Ewan wrote a letter to Sherlock Holmes?
Yeah. How could he know that?
Yeah.
Did he tell him? That's the only thing that makes sense to me for the timeline.
I'm a little confused on the timeline.
Right? Because the previous letter was 1 May, right?
Yeah.
So and he had already been
He'd already been questioned.
arrested.
So he hadn't written Holmes yet.
Oh, he could have written it. I guess he wrote it from prison?
Well, he's not in prison.
Or oh, he's not even in prison, never mind. So he
Yeah.
wrote yeah, yeah, yeah. So
But
he wrote
he
it
But when he was questioned, he hadn't written the letter yet. So
yeah,
it's not like he could tell him, "I wrote Sherlock Holmes from the situation I'm in right this second."
yeah.
So
Oh, so he would have to go back. Oh, man, is he working with Elsie?
well, I mean, listen, those are the 2 people with the most power in this situation, right?
And
He's the
he knows about the
control.
chimney sweep thing because he talks about it.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
he does.
man. Okay,
And
okay.
that sounds like a good way to if you're trying to frame somebody, you go, "Hey, by the way, I know he's a chimney sweep, and guess what I found at the crime scene? Soot."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I guess, yeah, I guess then I would have to say he was sort of spying on him at the inn or something, and like he read his mail. I don't know. I don't know how else to explain how he knew that he was corresponding with Holmes.
That's a weird
That's
one.
yeah, that's a very weird one. Maybe it's just the contrivance, but yeah, I'm not sure.
So, another thing that stood out to me, this letter was a lot more interesting than the first one because there's a lot of things that stand out. Like, I'm on page 2, and he says, let's see, where did sorry, I lost my place. The last paragraph, the big paragraph, he's talking about the 3 witnesses, and none strike him as a thief. He says Gorwood is something of a snob, and Butchert is far from favorable reputation with the barmaids, but both, well, I guess Me Too movement, right? Both are well compensated by the college. He
Yeah.
says from their dress, I surmise they also have substantial means beyond their wages at the college.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That sounds like
Yeah.
they steal stuff and sell it.
I thought the same thing. I thought that was a weird comment to throw in. That does seem I don't know.
And
He's
both
trying to
are quite
say,
brilliant, which sounds like what they can get away with crimes.
yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing. Oh man, what if they all did it?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Are we Murder on the Orient Express? Is everybody stole it?
Yeah, everybody stole
Yeah,
it.
the one guy put on the music, the
Yep,
lady had the key and she opened
yep,
it, the other guy had the rock because he's a geologist and he broke the
yep,
thing.
yep.
And okay, so they all stole it to do what? To just get money?
Yeah, so that's where that's the hard part. I don't know why they would do it because I feel like I don't really know that much about them. Let's
He does
see.
say they work in close proximity, so had either of them acted alone, the other would have noticed, which makes me
Yeah,
think they didn't act alone. If
yeah,
either one acted, they didn't act alone.
yeah. Yeah, that's kinda why, that's kinda why I was thinking, uh, yeah, that it was some combination of them.
I like that,
Um,
Justin. I like that a lot. They all stole it. So the charwoman, the 2 professors, and the constable,
yeah.
'cause he's got the cigar case. He's got the cigarette case with the numbers on it.
Yeah, maybe that's why they need the astrolabe. Go back to that whole thing. Like he's got to use it to find the treasure or some shit. I don't know. Like what you
Well,
know?
it's an interesting question of why now, right? And they did in terms of why now, they did just put this thing on display.
Yep.
So maybe they didn't have access to it before. So that's the why now.
Right. 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 Well, and also, they've got this convenient fall guy coming.
But
So
why not just steal it with the key that the charwoman has and not make it look like a theft? Oh, because then she'd be implicated.
yeah, then she'd be implicated. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so they do that to protect her. I like that. They do
Yeah,
that to
even
protect
though I think, according to my current theory, she did steal it with the key, and the glass thing happened later.
yeah. So everybody's lying?
That if that theory is true, then yes, everybody's lying, except perhaps Ewan.
Ewan's the only one we should believe because he's the only one everybody hates.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, under that version. But I guess there are other possibilities. I mean,
Oh, of course.
I guess it could be Ewan and Elsie, or I don't know, Ewan and the constable.
Well, and here's an interesting part. I think this is page 3, and he says, moreover, I searched Northcott's supply room along with the offices of both professors. None of them gave objections to the search, and I found nothing suspicious. So this is interesting to me just in terms of like where is the astrolabe now,
Yeah,
right? They didn't
yeah,
give objection because they know it's not in these places.
right,
So
right.
where is the astro? Is it up a chimney?
Um,
Somebody stuff it in a chimney.
Wait, so did Ewan do it, or did they put it in a chimney to try to extra frame Ewan for
Yeah,
it?
because you know what's better than one frame is an extra frame. Um, so let me read this again. Ruling out these three, the question arose of who then stole the astrolabe. I asked whether they seemed unusual. No. Butchert agreed they could, but I could see that both men were uneasy. So they were uneasy when they said they seen nobody besides the librarian and myself that morning. Huh.
Mhm.
Gorwood then frowned, whispered to Butcherd, and cleared his throat. We did have an unexpected visitor yesterday. This seems like when they're decided to pin it on him, pin it on Ewan.
Yeah.
Well, literally the next sentence is, "This is when Ewan became the
Yep,
suspect."
yep, yep.
Okay, so that sounds like there was somebody else there, and they're like, "Shit, let's say this other person we saw was Ewan, but maybe." So now I want to go back to Ella or Elsie. Oh no, what's her name from the first letter?
Ella?
Ella. I want to go back to Ella and say, was Ella there? Because
Oh.
I think they all know each other, right?
Yeah,
Don't
that's
all these
kinda what it
people know
sounded
each
like.
other? So what if she was there? But that would mean that none of them did it, but they're covering for Ella for some reason.
Oh, man, was it Ella and Elsie?
Ella is the E. The
I'm
E
I want
classic.
Elsie to do it no matter what.
Yeah.
I like the idea that she had a key and that it actually was stolen earlier than they think. But I don't know. I guess I shouldn't get too attached to that idea, but it's definitely a possibility. Uh, See, yeah, I mean, when I read it the first time, I thought that they were just uneasy because they didn't there's two ways to read it. Like, they were uneasy because they knew it was gonna make it seem like Ewan was guilty and they didn't wanna implicate him, but, like, they finally give in, like, that's one way to read it. The other way to read it, if they actually did the thing, is they're putting on a show of being reluctant to implicate their friend, you know? Uh, that's what I thought. The end.
Yeah, okay, okay, okay. I'm just reading this again to see in that context how I feel about that.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
I mean, Gorwood then frowned. He's got to be a good actor if he's gonna frown about something. And then clear stuff. Was he the
Well,
one?
if they're real masterminds, I mean, maybe they're good at, acting a part.
How many
I
master's mind can we have here?
Yeah, no, no. I
Everybody's
think
a
it's definitely
mastermind.
possible that they're innocent. I think it's definitely possible that they're innocent.
So another thing I thought was interesting about just the difference in the detail here was in this paragraph he says the constable says the day before the theft he paid a visit to the school. So uh, he being Ewan.
Yeah.
Supposedly to speak with his old friends in private, but neither man would admit him into their office, so he waited in the atrium for them to emerge so he could plead for their help. But that's not why he said he was there. He said he was there for a tour,
Oh, really?
right?
Is that what
Yeah.
he said?
He said, I had a tour the day before I showed up, the day before the thing was stolen.
All right, hold on. Hold on. I got to see this
Go
now.
back to the record.
Okay, going back to the first one. Okay. I saw it for the first time on my brief tour of Adelard yesterday. Blah blah blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did
But
say that.
what this sentence also does is make us think that he was in the atrium hanging out, and then he goes, "Hey, what's this astrolabe doing here?" Like it makes him go, "Oh, I'm just I'm waiting in the atrium, looking around. Here's something I can steal later."
Mhm.
Um, but that's not. It didn't seem like that's exactly what he. That's not he describe how he described it. He said, "Hey, I got a job interview for a certain day. I came the day before for a tour, and I saw my friends hanging out, and I went to go talk to them, and they didn't talk to me at all, right?" But the second letter says he showed up to see the friends, and they wouldn't talk to him, so he hung out in the atrium for a while. So it's slightly different.
Uh, where's the thing about the atrium?
Because this is what he says. It was during that time waiting in the atrium, I surmised, that he hatched his plan to steal the astrolabe.
Oh, 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 from
Page
the
three.
second one. Yeah. Okay.
Page three on the second one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, Yeah. Yeah. Supposedly to speak with his old friends in private. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's not consistent. Definitely not consistent. Since so many of the details do line up, it's probably worth paying attention when they don't.
Yeah. I don't even know if these sentences make sense together. Tell me if this logic flow of logic makes sense to you. I'm reading it towards the bottom of page 3 on the second letter. He says, Gorwith let loose what he'd been holding back. Quote, sure enough, but Ewan had trouble. Sorry, Ewan has trouble finding work for a particular reason. Have you heard of a man named Moriarty? I nearly fell out of my chair, but I composed myself and nodded. We first met Ewan when he was Professor Moriarty's research assistant. When it turned out that Moriarty was more a criminal than a scholar, Ewan denied knowledge of his crimes. We wanted to believe that he was innocent, but after all the hubbub around Moriarty, we were forced to either keep our distance from Ewan or risk our reputations. All at once, it made sense how and why the astrolabe could have been stolen so cleanly. How? Why? I don't get
How and why? I mean,
it. He says all at once it made sense how and why. I'm like, where's the how and where's the why?
um, yeah, I think
Not
my
not it made sense how and why Ewan would steal it, which is he can't get a job, he needs money, he's gonna steal something valuable. But how and why it could have been stolen so cleanly, which seems to suggest, oh, he's a criminal mastermind on top of all this.
well, it's weird
But
to
was it
describe
very
it.
clean?
What?
Was it very clean? Was this a clean
Well, that's what I was gonna
death?
say. It's weird to describe it as clean when you just
When people are
mere
writing to Sherlock Holmes about it?
mere paragraphs earlier, like it was described as very messy.
Yeah, yeah,
The scene. I mean, maybe he just means cleanly in the sense that the culprit has gotten away with it so far. I don't know,
yeah,
and that like its
yeah,
location is unknown.
yeah.
Um, I mean, the way I
But
read it, it sounds to me like he's insinuating that uh that because right in the first paragraph, he
mhm,
says he is and always has been a master criminal.
yeah,
Uh, so I'm assuming that, later he says he never heard of him before these events.
mhm,
So my assumption is that he concluded from his association with Moriarty that he must be a master criminal, and that's how the astrolabe was stolen so cleanly because he learned how to be a master criminal from Moriarty.
mhm.
That's my
But
assumption.
he's so masterful that he's the number 1 suspect. That's what I don't get. That's what I don't get. How are you so masterful, but all these people saw you the day before, all these people saw you in the atrium, everybody knows you have a bad reputation, but, like, you're so masterful that, like, you're the number 1
But no
suspect.
one saw him do it, and no one knows where it is. And yeah, no, I get your point. It's fair.
Yeah,
It's not the perfect crime if he really did it.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe yeah, maybe yeah. That's a tough one. It also didn't seem that clean. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot questionable about that. Um Let's see. Yeah, this interview bolstered my theory. Um, let's see. Yeah. Uh,
he seems to suggest that the fact that Ewan says he couldn't find work for months is incongruous with the fact that he was working there as a chimney sweep. But
he
I think it's
does.
fair to say by work he means his the trade he studied for, which is, professoring.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. That seems you can't find work for months. What? You're a chimney sweep so you can sleep here.
So
Like, get
yeah,
over it.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I found that sentence very strange because yeah, 100%. Like there's two things about this. Like first of all, like yeah, like I'm sure he meant the work that I'm trying to do,
Yes.
the work that I'm trained to do, etc.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
like and not just like so I could sleep somewhere.
Exactly.
Um
Thanks for board, yeah.
like whatever thing they'll like let me stay here for, you know. But like the other thing was he says it's the owner of the inn who tells him that Ewan's working as a chimney sweep, right?
Mhm.
So Ewan didn't admit to it himself, and you know, I mean, that's part of what he's pointing out. But I guess I'm just saying it to say that that suggests to me that I mean, he might even be like embarrassed about it, and maybe that's why he didn't mention it in
I
the
think
first
he's
letter.
exactly the kind of person who'd be embarrassed about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that makes it really not seem that suspicious. I mean, you know, there are the sooty footprints, and I understand that's, you know, some kind of implication, but you know, he definitely didn't deny being there. There's an inconsistency about why he was there, you know. It is weird that he would spend the whole letter talking about how all his friends are shunning him and then not mention that, you know, that was the thing that was happening that day and just characterize it as a tour. There's
Mhm,
something fishy about that.
mhm. It's a little fishy too that in the first letter, Ewan didn't say, "I've had no luck finding employment in academia, and my only saving grace has been working as a chimney sweep." He didn't specify that what he was actually doing to make ends meet.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So the second last paragraph in letter two, I think this is interesting detail here. He says, "I will also note that I've inquired to see if Finnegan might have sold or pawned the astrolabe. The artifact has not been sold or offered to either of the local pawnbrokers or Cheshire's resident jeweler, Theodore Wicks." First of all, the fact that they named this guy is
Yeah.
interesting to me.
Yeah.
Unless they've lied to me about the fact, I have no reason to doubt them. So this makes me think, if we want to take it at face value, that the person who stole it wasn't trying to sell it for money because it wasn't sold to any pawnbrokers or
Mhm.
jewelers. So again, going back to the idea that it was stolen for some sort of message,
Mhm.
some sort of moral reason.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Or to find treasure.
or to find treasure. It's interesting too. He says, "I plan to pay a visit to Mr. Finnegan at the Adelaide Arms tomorrow at dawn. If all goes well, I'll have the opportunity to inspect his lodgings, even if only briefly, for any signs of the missing astrolabe." The idea that he'll just be able to like spy it somewhere, like, does he thinks this guy's a master criminal, but he's gonna show up at his place and just be able to see it, if only briefly. I'll be able to tell if it's here somehow. Like that's talk about incongruous. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
Uh, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, I guess he's suggesting that he'll, like, walk away for a minute and he'll, like, have the chance to, like, search,
Yeah.
you know, never mind, like, why would he I mean, he knows he's a suspect. It's already
Mhm.
been, like, another night, like, if he
Yeah.
leaves the astrolabe in that room,
Why
like,
would he? Yeah, he's not a master criminal if he's leaving it in the room
he's a
where
really bad criminal,
inviting
and yet he seems
was
to think that's
inviting a
possible.
constable to, yeah. And this last sentence, this last paragraph, it's not every day that a university patrol officer gets to take on a case of this magnitude, and I would take great pride in being able to make myself of use. So first of all, I want to say, what if he's inflating this crime to get greater stature, right?
Mm.
So I think that's an interesting idea to think about. The other thing I was going to say is, um, I think I'm forgetting what I was going to say. The second thing. Oh, is there's no sense from these two letters what pressure the university is placing on anyone to figure out what happened, right? So he's saying it's not every day that a university patrol officer gets to take on a case of this magnitude, but we're not hearing any details of the dean of the school or the president of the university or whatever
Mhm.
is saying you got to find this thing or else. Like we're not getting any sense of that, which I think is interesting. There's no stakes here, there's no timetable. You got to find this. Ask your lay before the next donor meeting or
Right,
whatever,
right.
or like this is the most valuable possession that the university has. We have to find this, or else I'm going to lose my job as constable. He's sort of taking it on he claims he's taking it upon himself to get to the bottom of this, right? But he's not saying he's got to do that because the university is making him do it. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I think that omission is interesting to me because it sounds like he doth protest too much.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
Do you think
yeah.
that means he could be involved in the crime
He could be
or
involved in the crime. He
okay.
could be involved in the crime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not gonna rest until I figure out that I stole it. Yeah, is there something there?
Yeah, we're definitely getting into sort of this like unreliable narrator territory. Like, who are we
Yeah.
supposed to believe? Who's telling more of the truth? Like, I don't know what to think about it. Yeah, does he just want to like correspond with Sherlock Holmes and like
Mhm. Mhm.
try to like get himself, make himself feel more important
Yeah,
or
he wants to
something?
be in Watson's next book about the case, right? And
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, and didn't he said what was it? Uh um uh what was the thing he said? Oh, he didn't. I guess I made that up. I thought he said something about, was this somebody else who said that? I don't know. About someone who, did I make that up completely? Anyway, whatever. I was just wondering about the point when Moriarty's mentioned,
Mhm.
but all he does is nod that he knows who that is.
Gotcha. Yeah, he nods along. Uh,
Uh,
I want to
yeah.
just go back to the first paragraph in letter two, which is the constable says Finnegan may have escaped prosecution in that convoluted affair, but in this more earthly crime, where the evidence of his guilt is clear, I will not let him go free. The evidence of his guilt is clear because what? There was some soot at the
Sooty
crime scene,
footprints.
and he came in for a tour, and
He
now
was
the evidence
there.
of his guilt is clear.
He was there. The soot was there. Wait, what was that? Page two?
That's the first paragraph of page one.
Oh, first. Oh. Okay. Uh.
The
Oh,
very
okay. Okay. Yeah. 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 Evidence of his guilt is clear. Yeah. It's sort of like, yeah, I don't know. He's trying to be Sherlock Holmes. It's like, he's like, well, I ruled out all the other suspects,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
there's the sooty footprints, and how
Yeah.
much clearer can you get?
I gotta say, if the guilt is so clear, why is he writing to Sherlock Holmes about it?
Yeah.
Why isn't this going to the judge or the whatever, and the case is closed?
Yeah,
It's
what
so
the fuck?
clear.
No, 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 no. At the end, he says, beyond that, the case is presently at a standstill. Yet I
Mm.
don't intend to rest until I've gotten to the bottom of this. But he starts with
Yeah.
evidence of his guilt is clear.
Mhm.
And what? Like what? Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't add up. Yeah, some weird happened. It's almost like at the end of the letter, he wrote it before the
Yeah,
beginning. I don't know.
yeah. Well, it's at a standstill because he doesn't have more evidence of his clear guilt.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah,
he wrote the rest of the letter, and then they found evidence, which he doesn't mention, of course. And then
yeah,
he wrote the first paragraph.
yeah, yeah.
I know that makes no sense, but that's the best I can do. And we'll find out about the evidence later in the next letter, I guess. I don't know. I don't know who the
Well,
next
listen,
letter is going to be
that's what
from.
that's what's strange, right? Is he's saying if all goes well, I'll have the opportunity to inspect his lodgings, even if only briefly, for signs of the missing astrolabe. Beyond that, the case is presently at a standstill. Yet I don't intend to rest until I've gotten about. That means he can't place him at the crime scene. That all he can do is find evidence that Ewan has the stolen item in his possession.
Yeah.
That's all he can do at this point. He can't actually place him at the crime scene or
Yeah.
really have any motive. Now he's talked about motive and he's talked about when he was at the crime scene.
Yeah.
He was at the atrium the day before, but he's not saying, "Hey, somebody saw him there at the atrium the day it was taken,"
Yeah.
anything like that,
Yep.
Um so yeah, that's actually really, really, really confusing.
Evidence of broken glass found in any of his
Mhm,
stuff, or anything to sort of link him specifically to the crime. Yeah, I mean, it's all just like circumstance. Like he was there, and he's kind of desperate, and that's it.
mhm.
So we stole an astrolabe. I don't know.
Yeah, they suggest that the two professors don't need the money from an astrolabe. The charwoman might likely need the money.
Yeah.
She's just cleaning offices.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the idea that she would steal it with the key and then somebody's like, "Oh, let me cover up from her so that she doesn't get, the police don't come after her." But then shouldn't she know better anyway?
Well, and then there's this thing about Butchart has a far from favorable reputation with the barmaids.
Mhm.
Which is a weird random comment to make. I mean, you know, is it going too far to say like maybe he and Elise are having some kind of affair, and he's trying to help her, I don't know, maybe she's got some financial problems, or I don't know, like maybe there's a connection there.
There's something that almost makes sense, what if he did something bad to her and she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go public with what you did," and he says, "Hey, don't don't harsh my mellow. I'll give you this valuable thing instead." So he steals it because it's gonna shut her up, so his reputation isn't ruined.
Mhm.
That's something. Is a problem with,
Yeah.
like, how is she gonna get money from it? She's gotta fence it,
Right,
she's gotta
right.
give it to
Well, I
somebody.
mean, I go back to this where was it? This yeah, the Cheshire's resident jeweler, Theodore Wicks, who gets like fully named here.
The next letter is from Theodore Wicks, so I already know.
I just think you don't name that character if there
Absolutely
isn't
not,
something there.
absolutely not. Yeah,
So,
yeah, we're gonna get a letter from Theodore Wicks that says, Dear Sherlock Holmes, I just received an interesting package in the mail. It seems to be some sort of sextant. Um, yeah, yeah. come into play, Theodore Wicks?
Yeah, so I'm just holding space for the idea that, like, maybe he knows more than he's letting on, and perhaps he's in some way involved, or at least had some kind of connection to the crime. Um, and maybe that explains how, like, he melted it down, or I don't know, do jewelers melt things? I don't know, maybe he
Mhm, mhm.
do they?
Yeah, they can. They
Okay,
should.
okay.
Sometimes.
All right. Yeah, or whatever, like, would have a place to hide it or something, and maybe could have provided, if it really was just about, like, money. I mean, it seems a bit weird to me to steal this, like, prominent thing just
Can
for
I
money.
can I pitch the worst theory ever that I can't really say makes any sense with the
Okay.
time frame? Ah!
Okay.
What if the astrolabe was stolen, given to Wicks to melt down, and
Mhm.
then it was thrown back into the glass case?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
The rough-hewn rock is the astrolabe.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Is that
Oh, no.
crazy?
It makes no sense, but it feels strangely possible. Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
yeah.
'Cause I think there's, like, an hour in the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
timeline where that could have happened between, like, 8 and
Yeah, so
9.
Elsie takes it out with the key, brings it
Yeah,
to the jeweler, and
yeah.
then
He melts it down,
he melts it down, and
and
then but
then,
then, like, who gets it and puts it and breaks the glass? Like, what?
like,
Why is that
why did
happening?
they break the glass versus just putting it back
Oh,
in the
right, they had to break the glass because they needed her to not be
Okay,
accused of the crime.
they don't wanna accuse the crime. Okay.
But why put the melted astrolabe back? Is that a message? Is that what the message is?
It's part of the message is,
I can melt your astrolabe.
you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen, right? Get out of the astrolabe. Um, Dude, I feel like we're close to figuring this out. There's something there. There's something weird about, like,
Yeah.
it changing forms
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
they both describe this thing.
The astrolabe is there the whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah. And they
yeah.
don't, because yeah, it's totally, like,
He's a chimney
superfluous.
sweep, which
Yeah.
is where fire is, which is where you melt things.
Oh, no.
That's why there was soot there because he went to his chimney and he was like, "What's this burnt astrolabe doing here? Let me go put it back where it wa." Dude, I feel like we're so close. We're so close.
Wait, wait, are you saying he put it in the chimney or somebody else put it in the chimney?
He found it in the
He
chimney.
just found it?
Oh,
How'd it
maybe
get
that's
there?
it. Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe the thief stole it. They hid it in the chimney, not knowing the fire was gonna be used. Then it was used and therefore melted it. They're like, "Oh, let me put it back." Okay, that doesn't make sense, but I feel like we're close. I feel like we're close to a clever solution.
No, I agree. I think it's a good idea. It really makes use of the thing of the like, gives a reason why it's there, what it has to do with anything. It's just the scenario of why you would steal it, melt it, and then bring it back. That's a hard one. Where, like, coming up with a story
Mhm.
where that actually seems reasonable, like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
It's really hard to envision, like, unless there was some secret, thing on it that they wanted to cover up, or
What if Ewan stole it, but he only meant to borrow it for some reason, but and he hid it in the chimney while he was borrowing it, and then he was like, "Oh shit, this chimney was used." Oh no, I gotta put it back now. Okay, it didn't quite land. Okay, it didn't really get there. It didn't really get there. Um,
But he's just hiding shit in the chimney. It's so weird. Like, why? Why is everyone hiding things in the chimney?
well, it's a great place to hide stuff.
It's
I don't know. I don't have a chimney, so I don't know if I'd hide anything there. It's dark.
That's true, but also, like, things get burned in there, and there's like, unless you build it, like, it's just gonna drop to the ground, right? I mean, it's not like there's, like, secret compartments or something up there, like,
But
like
doesn't every chimney have an astrolabe shelf where you stuff your astrolabes? I've never been to England. I don't know what chimneys look like. Okay, so I think we're onto something. We're missing the details, but there's something about this
Yeah,
changing forms that I think
yeah,
is
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, I agree, I agree. Um,
Maybe that's how the constable's cuff got torn
yeah, I
because
wanted to do something with the cuff, yeah.
he went and retrieved the astrolabe and tore his cuff, retrieving it from the chimney. I'm close. Like I'm close to something.
Wait, why did he put it in the chimney? Did he
He
did
just
he
knew it
put it in
was
the
there.
chimney before
I
he
don't know if
even
he knew I don't think he put it there, but he knew it was there.
he just knew it was there? How did
Okay,
he
how about this? You want a solution?
Yes, I do.
Uh, the charwoman
Yeah,
and the constable have worked at the school for a while.
yeah, yeah.
They're lovers.
Okay, okay, okay.
Did I solve it? Do you need more? Okay, I'll give you some more.
Wait, so did she put it in the chimney?
Let me think. She steals it. Damn, that doesn't make sense. She steals it, and then he says, "You can't steal that." And he's like, "Hey, why don't we put this up a chimney to hide it better?" And then she's like, "Okay, that makes sense to me, darling." And he's like, "Great. No one's gonna start a fire in that chimney 'cause it's already clean." And then Ewan comes home and starts a fire in the chimney.
Mhm.
And then the constable says, "Oh shit, I forgot about that astrolabe in the chimney. I need to
Yeah,
go get it."
yeah. This is
And
like an hour later. Okay.
yeah, this is very quickly. And he goes, "Oh no, someone turned the chimney on. My cuff is now broken." Okay, suffice it to say I don't have a foolproof plan here. I can't quite make it work.
And there's gotta be something with the cigarette case with the numbers on it too, like, that's gotta, like, come into play somehow. He never
Absolutely.
mentioned those things, by the way. I'm just gonna point it out, like,
Yeah.
he never said, like, "Oh, and he broke my cuff, and
Mm.
he wanted a cigarette, but I didn't have any, and my cigarette
Mhm.
case was empty." So that to me, that means one of 2 things.
Mhm.
One, that was a lie, and actually, Ewan made that up for some obscure reason that we maybe will understand later.
Mhm.
Or number 2, um, uh, Constable is leaving it out because, it implicates him in something, or there's something he's trying to hide about it. Or
Yeah.
he just didn't think it mattered, but it's like, if it didn't matter, I don't think they would have mentioned it.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm inclined to think that either it's a lie, or he's implicated, and that's a clue.
Wait,
I don't know why.
implicated yeah, why?
but it just in terms of, like, consistency, because mostly I was focusing on the fact that Ewan's story was, like, corroborated by this, but I think it's also worth noting the parts where it does, where the constable story, it doesn't quite match up with what Ewan said.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you think about why would you steal something that seems valuable, so there's two reasons. One is this sort of one is a financial reason, right? And then one is a more message reason. So if you just look at it financially, we know there's certain characters who don't seem to have a financial need to steal it, right? The professors seem to be okay. Next is the constable. He has a
Right.
job, but you don't expect he's making a lot.
Yeah.
Next is the charwoman who has a
Yep.
job. You don't expect she's has a lot. And at the very bottom is Ewan, who doesn't have a job except the
Yeah.
chimney sweep thing, and is trying to find a job. So um, you would expect someone who stole it for a financial reason to need the money. So that would uh, discount the professors, and it would only be the constable, the charwoman, or Ewan who would need the money. Um, Now they can't just pawn something off that's this recognizable, right? That's the other problem. Is it's a pretty specific thing about here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why if this, uh, uh or Theodore Wicks was involved, like, you know, he would have to be in on it in some way.
Theodore Candle, Marvin Waxman,
Oh my god.
Teddy Waxman.
We're
Um,
just free associating with, like, lost stuff
yeah, that's
now.
it. That's it. Hey, how else are you gonna solve it? Um, what's weird again? I think it's so weird that the constable is talking to Sherlock Holmes like, "Hey, I think this guy did it. I think Ewan did it. He's a criminal mastermind working for Moriarty. By the way, I'm not going to rest until it's done. And if I get to his apartment or his lodgings, then I will look for it." And it's like, who is he trying to convince and why? Like, like, why isn't he saying, "Hey, I have XYZ evidence that I've sent to the police or to the district judge or whatever, the magistrate, whatever the organization is," right? Like, why is he trying to convince Sherlock Holmes of anything? Because I feel like he could just say, "Dear Sherlock Holmes, I got a chance to check out his lodgings and I found all the evidence." Like, you know what I mean? Like, couldn't he just say that? Like, if he's trying to convince Holmes of something, he can say anything.
He can say anything?
Well, couldn't he?
Can he? Are you
I mean,
wait,
if his point is to convince Sherlock Holmes of something, yeah.
okay, okay, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Like,
couldn't he say, "Dear Sherlock Holmes, I'm writing in to let you know I found all the evidence against Ewan in his lodgings." The end,
mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean,
Versus saying like, "Dear Sherlock Holmes, the police department has found this evidence and therefore he's guilty."
mhm.
Right? Like, one is more subjective.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I feel like part of that is just the artificial nature of the way that the thing is told, but I think I do think to a degree it's supposed to be unreliable, and we have to question what they say because it's not, it's not
Mhm.
going through, it's just what someone says. Like there's no sort of larger process to like vet the truth of any of these things that are stated here. I think I think between the two letters, like, okay, I mean, here's third possibility is you and the constable are collaborating. I have to throw
Mhm,
that out, but assuming that's not true, um then I tend to think that the places where the two letters say the same thing, then I'm inclined to believe that those things are true.
mhm,
Since it doesn't seem like they're collaborating. I mean, if so, it's a long con.
yeah. And we don't know why they would collaborate. I
Yeah,
mean, of all the things to steal for money, this seems like not the obvious thing to do.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's gonna be a problem in a way, like, no matter who did it,
Mhm.
um but yeah, I think, uh, it's a good starting point to just line them up and, um you know, I'm slightly curious about the slightly different color descriptions of the stone, but I do think that there's something there. Experiments with the astrolabe. I don't know. There's something there, like,
Well, you make a good point because in general they describe it the same. But he says verdigris, right?
yeah,
Which is a very specific thing.
yeah,
And so why does he know what that is? He didn't say it was green. I would expect the constable to say it's brown and green,
right.
and the academic scholar to say
To say
verdigris.
verdigris, yeah,
So he says verdigris, which means he knows it's copper that has been oxidized and looks green.
yeah.
That's suspicious.
Hmm.
That is suspicious.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. He is there. He
Mhm.
works there. He knows about stuff. Yeah. I mean, I was suspicious of him from the first one. Um just from the weird cuff incident.
Mhm.
Uh yeah, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, I
Where
guess
was that at? Where was that sentence?
which one?
Oh, here we go. Second in the second paragraph, page 1. All that was left in the case was a small stone, brown, speckled with verdigris.
Yeah.
And again, he didn't say, "Oh, the stone was used to break the case," right?
Right.
Which is what I would expect of somebody who knows that that's not what the stone was for, right? Someone who doesn't know what's going on and shows up to a crime scene and goes, "Oh, well, there's a glass everywhere and a stone. Oh, that stone must have been used," right? So I guess that begs the question: was there, if the stone wasn't used to break the glass, what was? What would make glass go everywhere?
Uh I mean a lot of things. But is there like an object in the story here that would make sense?
A cigarette case?
The cigarette case. Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I would think that could do it.
But those are so small and delicate. Like,
God, why are you cigarette? You need to get a big one. What are you doing with your small ass cigarette
it
cases? Come
only
on.
supposed to fit a couple cigarettes.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, for a
And
little
you're
tiny
right, though,
one.
dude. The fact that he didn't bring up the cuff, because he could say, because he's been downing Ewan the whole time. He could
Yeah.
say, "Oh, he's such a criminal mastermind. He even broke my cuff,"
Right, right.
and he didn't bring that up,
Yeah. Yeah.
which means that Ewan, I'm sorry, that the constable is saying that Ewan broke his cuff because the constable realized, "Oh shit, I broke the case. My cuff got cut. I need an excuse onto
Yeah.
what as to why my cuff is now cut." Actually,
Yeah.
that's gotta be true.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I honestly, dude, I think there's 2 parts to the case, and I think it's what we said, like, there's the person who did it, and there's the person who's covering up for them.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think the constable's covering up.
Yeah.
He got his, cuff cut on the case,
Yeah.
uh, and he's covering up, but so who's he covering up for, and why? So did he this covering up means somebody opened the glass case with the key, they took out the astrolabe, they closed it, there's nothing in there, it's just a glass enclosure. And then he shows up and goes, "Oh, look, there's nothing in there. Somebody stole it. I'm going to not only break the case, but put in another object there to begin with. Like, why not just break the case and not put any rock in there?"
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the rock thing is that that seems like one of the hardest things here. It seems much easier to come up with who did it than like why the rock thing? Because
Hmm.
like, do we know enough to even explain that? Uh, I was just reading the first letter and I forgot about this, but in the first letter it says the constable then confirmed with the college that I had not only registered for a tour of the grounds yesterday, but had also been scheduled for an interview today. So he's actually saying that the constable confirmed that he was gonna have a tour, which doesn't seem to line up with uh, the thing that they said
Hmm.
about that here. But I think that was actually like Mac and Gorwid or something.
Hmm.
Right? They were the ones who said, "Oh, he just came to talk to us." Right? Isn't that what they said?
Um, Basically, in the second letter, it says that they said
The day before the theft, he paid
he
a visit to the
came to
school,
talk to his
supposedly to
friends.
speak with their old friends in private, with his
Yeah.
old friends in private.
But that's not why he came. He came for the tour.
Yeah, and he said that the constable confirmed that he went there for a tour.
Where's that in letter
So
one?
he all right, let me find it. Uh oh, I pulled up the wrong one. See, I want number 1 to be first, but it's actually second. Okay, let's see. Um Here it is. Yeah, it's at the bottom of page 3. Like towards the end of that last
Okay,
paragraph
yeah.
on page 3.
How is the constable confirming this from his perspective?
Um it says confirmed with the college, so I can only assume that he, called some. Do they have telephones back then? I don't know. Contacted some official in charge of scheduling tours and just confirmed that uh he had been registered for a tour.
The constable then confirmed with the college that they had not only registered for a tour of the grounds, but also been scheduled for an interview today. Okay. Hmm. That's a tough one.
Matt claimed I must have hidden away the artifact, whilst Ken repeatedly explained that I was Professor Moriarty's protege and therefore obviously a Viper. Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting. That's so weird. The way the constable portrays it, it's like they were really reluctant to implicate him.
Mhm.
But then the way this portrays it, it's like they're like, "Oh, you like, of course you did it. I know you did," like I don't know. There's an inconsistency
Which is
there.
also how the constable's portraying it in general, that this guy's a mastermind, I know he did it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but he doesn't say that,
But
Mac and
they said
Ken
that.
say that.
But he says that he was just there to see them, but not for any so he couldn't have so if he had confirmed with the university that Ewan was there for a tour, why wouldn't he tell Holmes that?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, why not? Yeah. I mean,
Why
it
not just say,
seems
"Hey, he was here for a tour the day before, and he was in the atrium hanging out," versus he was here the day before to talk to his friends and then hung out in the atrium.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it seemed to me um it seemed to me like he was describing what they told him.
Yeah, and so he says Ewan says that he learned that the astrolabe had been part of the college's collection for some time. So that's interesting because it was a new case.
Yeah.
So it's been there a while, but it hasn't been on display, which means it hasn't been easily accessible.
Yeah.
That means that somebody had wanted it but couldn't get to it until now.
Yeah.
Who was able to get to it now? The charwoman with the key.
It should be the people who were there before.
Yeah.
Um if that's really a thing, like, oh, it's accessible now, like we can have it. Yeah, no, she's pretty high on my suspect list in terms of like having access. There still has to be someone else involved, I think, but I think that's uh I think that's a good starting point. I if she's not involved, then I would have to
Wait,
I'll what?
who's the one who has the Me Too problem?
Oh, that was hold on, let me find. Uh that was um that was Butchart, which
Mac.
is that Mac? Keep forgetting. Yeah, that's Mac. Yeah. Yeah.
And he's the one who had the music playing.
Correct. Yeah.
He did it. He did it. He's covering up from her
Yeah.
because he did something wrong to her,
Mhm.
and she says something about, "I'm gonna go to university, I'm gonna get you fired, I'm gonna ruin your
Mhm.
reputation," and he's trying to pay her off, and he says either he says, "Give me the key and I'll get it and give it to you," or he says, "You take it and I'll cover up from you." But I'm now like thinking him. He's the one who has a direct reference to wanting to cover up for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree that yeah. And playing the music that covers up the sound.
Mhm.
I I think that fits pretty well. Doesn't explain the rock.
Something about like I like she's like, "Well, you did this thing to me. I'm gonna I'm gonna make you look bad. So I'm gonna take this astrolabe," and then he's like, "Oh shit, like I don't want anyone to see that it was taken and implicate me, so I'm gonna make like a robbery." Um what did you say? It doesn't address what?
The rock. The stone.
Why they left it in the place of the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just saying that's still a problem. It doesn't I mean there can be a reason. It's just there's at some point that has to be explained.
What
But
if
But I in general, the theory seems plausible to me.
What if the charwoman uses her key to open the case, takes the astrolabe, and she's trying to embarrass Mac or do something weird, and she has it melted down, and then she puts it back in the case unbroken. Then Mac sees it that this thing is now ruined or whatever, melted down, and then he just breaks the case to make it seem like, oh, this thing was stolen, but in fact, the rough stone is the astrolabe. Does that
Uh,
help? Does that fix anything?
uh, Wait, hold on. No, I think it's very plausible that the rough stone is the astrolabe, but like, but wait, but why?
I guess the difference I'm making is instead of she uses the key to open the case and take the stone, and then somebody says, "Oh, the stone's gone. Let me make it look like a burglary, so I will break the case and then put a stone there." Instead the situation is the the astrolabe is taken, turned into the stone, put
Mhm.
back into the case. The case is still complete. It's not
Mhm.
broken yet. And then somebody sees that the astrolabe is gone and there's a stone in its place and then goes, "Shit, let me make this look like a robbery."
Mhm.
And I'm gonna and basically all they have to do is break the case. They don't have to take the stone, which is why the stone is still there.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right. I mean, that's fine, but like, but why take it melted and then put it back? Like, why would you do
for the
that?
message.
That's where the message comes in. Okay.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm, mhm.
Okay. That's a message we need to find out about, I guess.
The message of one.
Um, but yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that scenario can work, I think.
All right. Well, listen, I really want to get letter number 3
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I
because
hope
this
it
is
helps. I hope it doesn't just make it more complicated.
yeah, it's gonna be a letter from the astrolabe itself. Dear Sherlock Holmes, I'm stuck in a chimney. Please save me before they melt me down.
I'm just a melted ass rock now.
Yeah. I feel like we're onto something with the counterintuitive like possibilities of who did what and why,
Yeah.
but can't really piece it together yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It seems like there's not enough information. I definitely once we get it, I gotta go back and just see like how much of this was
Could
really
have been
possible and how much of it
yeah,
would involve like wild speculation to ever come up with.
yeah. All right. Anything else before we wrap it up?
Uh, I no, I think we covered it.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Let us know what your theories are at this point on our Patreon, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye.